Back again for my third retro book haul, if you don't know what I'm talking about. So for the last year and a half to maybe 2 years, I've accumulated a lot of books that I haven't shown in any book haul videos. And even though I have put up a handful of book haul videos, I really haven't been doing like proper hauls where I was showing books that I was receiving as I was receiving them. And as a result, I have like a bunch that I've never shown in a video. So I put up a poll on my community tab to see if anybody wanted to see those books before I put them away on the new shelves. And just about everybody did. So now I'm kind of going through them all a box and stack at a time for you guys. So these ones are a more recent purchase. I'll show you this one first. It's the Red Sonja series, book 5, called Against the Prince of Hell by David C. Smith and Richard L. Tierney. So I have books 1 through 4, and I needed books 5 and 6. I still don't have 6, but I do have 5 now, thank goodness, and I love the cover. But this one came with book 2 called Demon Knight, which I do already have. However, I could actually get these two together cheaper than I could get this book by itself. And the other books, the other editions of these books that were being sold were in the same shape as this one. And the ones that were in better shape were like way too expensive for me to buy. So I just bought the pair. I figured, you know what? I have a lot of booktube friends who like this kind of thing. I'm sure I could find somebody to send this one to. The next book is volume 5 in the Killing, Stalking graphic novel deluxe edition series. I'm very excited about this. It's the only graphic novel series that I have ever liked, because I don't like graphic novels, but for whatever reason, this one just hits the spot for me, even though I do occasionally can't figure out what's going on in the panels still, but I just like the story enough that I just overlook the parts that I'm not really absorbing. So yeah, I pre-ordered this and it just came out here in the last 2 weeks. So I'm super thrilled to be able to get to the next volume. The next book is Who We Are and How We Got Here: Ancient DNA and the New Science of the Human Past by David Reich. I cannot remember where I saw this, but I'm certain I saw this somewhere on BookTube. And I have an interest in genetics, and this is exactly what it sounds like, the study of ancient DNA and what they've learned from it. So I am excited to read this book, and also I'll probably be reading this one sooner rather than later. The next one is Crashing Through: A True Story of Risk, Adventure, and the Man Who Dared to See by Robert Curzon. So Robert Curzon has been writing this series of nonfiction books about various people who have accomplished great things. So he's got one called Rocket Man, which has something to do with astronauts. I cannot remember what that one is, but I have that there. I just haven't read it yet. He also wrote Shadow Diver, which is about this man, or I think it was 2 men actually, who discovered this submarine under the water that had been lost forever. That was really good. He also wrote Pirate Hunters, which was about the men who found the Golden Fleece, which was a famous pirate ship that nobody's ever been able to find. That was really good. And then this one here is about a man who was blinded when he was 3 years old, but then went on to break the world record for downhill skiing. He joined the CIA. He worked for the CIA. He invented something, I don't know what. He was an entrepreneur. He just did a lot of amazing things with his life. And then at some point, after he'd accomplished all these things, he was offered the opportunity to undergo a surgery that would restore his sight, and what happens after he has the surgery. So I'm looking forward to reading this one as well. It sounds really interesting, and Robert Curzon is really good at telling these kinds of stories. The next book is Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin, with an introduction by Chuck Palahniuk. What is it? Palahniuk? Palahniuk? Shit. The next book is Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. So I have already read this book. I've read it twice, as a matter of fact. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite books. But I didn't have a physical copy. The 2 times I read it on Kindle. So I thought it was time for me to have a physical copy of this book. So I picked one up. These next few books were sent to me by somebody who watches my channel. So the first book is The Twilight Pariah by Jeffrey Ford, which is about a couple, as far as I can remember anyway, it's about a couple who goes to this old house in the woods and they excavate some, thinks they're archaeologists or amateur archaeologists, and they excavate something that turns out to be really evil. So horrifying things ensue. The next book is The Expert System's Brother by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I don't actually know what this is about, and the synopsis doesn't really tell you. It just says that there's this young man who's wandering through a world he doesn't understand, and that it's a coming of age story, and that's all it says. But I do like Adrian Tchaikovsky, so I will read it at some point. The next book is called The Dream Quest of Velvet Bow by Keej Johnson. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. So this one has some kind of reference to an H.P. Lovecraft story. I don't remember all the details, but I think it's a teacher who's going after one of her students, and it talks about dream logic and things like that. So we'll see how this one turns out. The next one is To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. I do actually have her Monk and Robot duology as well, which I am looking forward to reading that, but I think I'm looking forward more to reading this one. This one seems like it will be a lot more of the type of science fiction that I enjoy. The next book is Venice is a Fish, A Sensual Guide by Tiziano Scarpa. Hopefully I'm pronouncing the name correctly. So what this is it's a traveler's guide if you're going to visit Venice. This is a person who has grown up in Venice and lived his whole life in Venice, telling you where you should go and what Venice is like. And I thought I was really going to like this, and I did for about 5 minutes. And then I realized that this author and me, we don't get along. I like the way that he lays out his chapters. Each chapter is the name of a body part, like feet, hands, heart, etc. And then his entire the chapter is a sort of devoted to something that has to do with that body part. And I liked that, but there are just some things in here I didn't care for. Like he talks about and quotes another writer. He's trying to point out how love is handled in Venice and how people are inspired to love and make love while they're in Venice. And he quotes this writer who talks about how he pretty much rapes women or sexually assaults them, like this is some kind of a good thing. And then in another chapter, he spends the entire chapter is all about feces, and he goes into like a 2.5-page story about a girl who has a bowel movement on a sidewalk and how this is a good thing. I don't know. I was not a fan of this book. I did finish it, but I really didn't like it that much. And I did take quite a few notes, so I might come back at some point and talk about this book in a video. The next book is The First Men in the Moon by H.G. Wells. This is an H.G. Wells that I have not read and did not have. And I found this one really cheap. I think it was like $4. So I picked it up. And this one, Tales from the Midnight Forest by Lisa Hoffman. So Lisa Hoffman is one of my very favorite fantasy authors. She publishes her books independently. She is a teacher from Germany, and I absolutely love her stories. She has a series called the Dice Irae series. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly because it's Latin. It's going to be a quartet, but so far there are 3 books out in that. And then she wrote a number of short stories, and this is her short story collection. So I've already read all of them and owned them just as individual paperbacks. But when she put the collection out, of course, I had to have the collection as well. And then I picked up the Uplift trilogy. It's a bind up of all 3 of the Uplift books by David Brin, because I do plan on reading this at some point. I just haven't got around to it. And this book I picked up for I forgot what it was called. Oh, the Future History Project that Shawn D. Standfast was doing. It kind of went off the rails, but that's fine. I'm still intend to read the books that I have. So this is Foundation's Friends. They're stories written by authors other than Isaac Asimov, but they're written in his world. And my favorite thing about this is that there is a story by Hal Clement in here, which of course I've already read. And then we have Atmosphera Incognita by Neil Stevenson. Actually, this was, I do believe, also sent to me by the same person who sent that other collection of novellas. I just didn't have them together for some reason. But yeah, I don't remember what this is about, but I'm kind of spoiled on Neil Stevenson now because I read about 250 pages of Seven Eves. That's like an 800 and some page book. And I ended up DNFing it. So where before I was excited to try out Neil Stevenson, I am much less excited to try him out now. but I figure this will be a good place to try him again since it's just a novella and it's not a full-length book. The next book I have here is a collection of short stories by Arthur C. Clarke called The Sentinel, and the story that I was after is The Sentinel, which is in this book because it is the short story that he based 2001 Space Odyssey on. And so I am quite interested in seeing the difference between that short story and the book/movie. And then we have The Horde, How the Mongols Changed the World by Marie Favreau. I'm very interested in the Mongols, so I'm really looking forward to reading this at some point. Then I have a number of science fiction masterworks. The Shrinking Man by Richard Matheson. I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Sinners, Synners, by Pat Cardigan. More Than Human by Theodore Sturgeon. Babel 17 by Samuel R. Delany. This guy, I swear to God, was on drugs every time he wrote a book. I swear. The Fountains of Paradise by Arthur C. Clarke. I like this cover real well. The Stars, My Destination by Alfred Bester. Non-Stop by Brian Aldiss. And Dying of the Light by George R.R. Martin. Which is interesting because I didn't even know this book by George R.R. Martin existed. And then I have a few more Firefly books. You can't see it here. Well, let me see if I can put my camera up there. You can see that shelf right there. I have all of the Firefly books that take place between the ending of the series and the movie, plus a few like nonfiction books about the Firefly series. And I picked up a few more. So this one is The Serenity Handbook, the official crew member's guide to the Firefly Series 3 ship. I haven't taken that out of the plastic yet, so I don't know exactly what to expect. But my understanding is this is essentially a hand guide to, or maybe an owner's manual to the Firefly. And then I have The Shiniest Ogoram Dictionary and Phrase Book in the Verse, which is all about the slang and language being used in the series. Then I have A Traveler's Companion to the Verse, which is all about the various planets and cultures in this solar system where Firefly takes place. And The Big Damn Cookbook by Chelsea Monroe Castle, which is, of course, recipes from the Firefly show, because you know in the episodes they sit down at the table together and share a meal. And I absolutely love to cook. It's one of my favorite things. So this was definitely a must own for me. Okay, and that completes this book haul, and I'll be back again with another one soon.